Welcome to Notes from a Songbird, where your voice finds its wings. We're returning today to talk about vocal care. Let me just stop my music playing in the background and we'll get into this episode. All right, so vocal care is one of the things that I preach. I believe it's not something that you could ignore, it's not something that you could take lightly. You have to take care of this instrument of yours. I want you to think of an instrument such as a guitar, a flute, a saxophone, just a few. I'm just naming a few. I'm not naming all instruments, but a few. What do these have in common? Well, typically they're kept in a case. They're kept in some type of structure, closed structure, so that they can be protected. I want you to start thinking of your voice just like that. Your voice is an instrument that should be protected, should be encased. So you'll hear me say a lot of times that I fully recommend when it's drafty, you should encase that neck, meaning you should have something to cover and protect your throat. So the other day, when I was filming an episode, I was sitting in a chair. As a matter of fact, it was our last episode. I was sitting in a chair and I have a vent that's right above here that was literally pouring air down because it was so hot outside. And I was sitting there going, uh-oh, that's not a good thing. I could have immediately stood up, restarted refilming, but I said, no, I'll just keep going because I do believe that I'm going to wrap up soon and I know what to do from there. Get me some warm tea, just start to take care of my voice and my vocals the way I know to do. But I'm just saying, had I sat there for longer than usual, I know for a certainty I start to develop problems with my throat. I'm susceptible to sore throats. And from sore throats, I end up getting a cold, which in turn leads to me often losing my voice. So that hasn't happened to me in a very, very long time because I truly believe in vocal care. And I'm going to provide some tips today that's going to really be beneficial for how to take care of the voice. We're going to talk about straw singing. We're going to talk about foods to avoid. We're going to talk about um, nebulizers and so forth. So, not necessarily in that order, but you get the point. So, I have notes, hand notes. I also have notes on my digital device. So, I'm just going to click here to make sure I see those. So, I first want to talk about why singers sing through a straw. This is called, I want you to understand what this is called. There's an actual name for this. It's called straw phonation. Straw phonation, or they call it SOVT. It's an SOVT exercise. I'm going to say what this is specifically. It's called semi occluded vocal tract. So SOVT. All of that fancily, I'm making up a word, fancily. All of that's a fancy or in a fancy way say, when you sing through a straw, you partially block airflow. So that's what the straw phonation is doing. It's having you partially block airflow, which reduces strain on the vocal cords. That's weird, right? It sounds strange, but it's intended to do that. But what it does when you perform this correctly is it helps chords come together more efficiently. It then balances your breathing pressure. It then improves resonance and tone control, and it warms up the voice safely. So I like to use the straw phonation when I am warming up. Now, I am going to be 100% honest with you. I don't do this all the time. I have been singing for years, and these are habits that I have formed over the years. So for me, I know what it takes to get my voice in shape before I'm about to perform. You have to start developing what's going to make your voice stronger. So this is why I'm starting you learning some of these things early on so that you can start to make some of this your go-to when it comes to warming up. The reason being too is because I didn't have this information when I first started out. Straw, what? I use a straw to suck up my drink or to have a beverage. That's what we use straws for. We used to have straws that when you sucked up in them, they were those little swiggly straws, curly straws. They had a funny shape, and you would see your liquid, if it was Kool-Aid or whatever, go through it, and that was entertaining. That's what we used the straw for. And I don't care that I'm dating myself, but that's crazy straws, I think they were called. That's what we used. They were stripes. They were this hard plastic, and every one of my siblings had one. So we all had our own straws, and we used them that way. But someone, I don't know who invented this, came up with this idea and found that it actually works. So I've been using it, and I will say I have seen major improvements when it comes to using this method for warming up. So I do use it every now and then. I would highly recommend that you start using it. And believe you me, I'm going to start adding it to my repertoire in terms of vocal warm up. So don't think that I don't practice what I preach. I'm just coming in later in the game than you are. So you're ahead of the curve. Why do singers love singing through a straw? Listen to these tips. Easier high notes without pushing. Who doesn't want easier high notes without tension and pushing? Less vocal fatigue. So because you're using the straw method, you are building the muscles. You're building all of that up. So then when it comes time for you to sing out and sing a high note, it becomes a little bit easier because you've been sort of like doing these um, you know, push-ups with your vocal cords. So if you've been doing these on the regular using the straw method, how easy is it, or do you think it's going to be for you to push those notes out when it's time? Get the concept, get the concept. It helps recover tired voices. Now that's a really good motivational note to make sure you try this. It also builds one of my favorites, vocal consistency, so that when you go to approach certain notes, the consistency, because you've been using the straw mechanism or method, it becomes more of an ease at producing the sound and the quality of the voice. So the vocal consistency is there. Well, how's it done? You hum or sing scales through a straw. So you hum or sing scales through a straw. So if I have the straw here, this is what I'm doing, right? My mouth is literally closed. You're not open. Your mouth is closed. Just like we're using a straw, use a straw, right? Your lips are kind of close together. They should be close together. And when you do this, you want to start gently. So you don't want to go, no, you want to, right? You want to, just hum or sing scales through a straw. So you're thinking you're sucking up. Actually, you start gently. You don't force volume. So if I'm going to sing, it's forcing me to push that air through that straw with no issue. So forgive me when I was saying sucking up. I'm sorry. In my brain, I was thinking, I'm going to be sucking up through the straw. You're not sucking. You're actually blowing. Think of it the opposite way. And 2 to 3 minutes is enough. You don't need to do this for a long length of time. You just need to do it for, as I mentioned, this length is good. If you want to go longer, it's only going to help you just do better or have more power. Some singers even do it into water for resistance. So when I say that, that's why I was saying with the straw, you're pushing the air out. But now I am going to share with you what I've done. I've literally put water in a small cup and I literally blow bubbles. So I'm pushing the air out. I like the water because I get to see the effort that I'm putting into that blowing through the sound I hear from the water. So you're going to find what works for you. But I honestly love the water, adding the water to a cup and then taking the straw and blowing into that water. But when I say blowing, we're actually humming. So as you're doing that humming through the straw, you're going to actually see bubbles, because when I say bubbles, are you going to see the water move based on what you're pushing out, because you're pushing out air. All right. I'm going to see if I can explain it a little bit better than that. Singing through a straw helps your voice find balance without strain. Now you understand why you use the straw, because it's without strain. It teaches your chords to work smarter, not harder. So you're going to want to use this method and learn it so that you can leverage this as you learn to sing or get better at singing. Remember, I said that this podcast is also for people who may have been singing for years, but they could improve. They could strengthen their technique. This is what this is for. This mic, by the way, is here because if I put it anyway, any place on my top, it could hit my necklace and cause some audio noise. So I purposely put it there so that it would not interfere, because our audio is important. You need to hear everything that I am imparting. So I just wanted to give you that tip about the straw. Why do you use it? Why is it beneficial? Let me say this. I want to talk about some of these things. Y'all are going to think that I am bad mouthing certain products, but I have seen some products on Instagram, maybe TikTok, or whoever, whatever social media platform, whether it's Facebook, where they encourage you to have this instrument where you're literally doing the things that I suggested using a straw. You can pay for those things if you want to, but I'm here to tell you the straw method works. Now, some people say, well, I don't want to use plastic. I don't want to use a straw. Some of those instruments are made from plastic. Some of them are costly. So, listen, I'm about cost effectiveness. So, I say, think about it carefully. Invest in something when you are already at the point where you can see that investment is paying off. For now, straws are so inexpensive. Water, you get it? Save your coins. This is so effective to do it this way, and it works. So I'm just going to save you your money and tell you, maybe look into some of these things. I'm not bad mouthing these other products, but I'm just saying I'm trying to save you some money. So I hope to do that here as I teach. All right. So is we're going to move on to nebulizers, which is something that I like to use as well. So if you heard from my episodes before, I am an asthmatic. And as I was always in the hospital as a child, they would whisk me in and I would hear the doctor say, it's that girl. They would say my last name and they would say she's back. And they would go, oh, poor thing, she's back already. I lived in the hospital. I spent maybe 3 days out of the week in the hospital as a child. I just was so sickly. My lung capacity was spent. I was getting 3 shots. The doctor would tell me, pick an arm, whichever one you want your third shot. It got to the point that it didn't even bother me. They could have hit me in the same arm 3 times, and I just was like, oh, well. I just got so used to the needles because I just had to have them in order to recover. I did that, and they would put me on a nebulizer. And I, of course, as a child, wouldn't understand any of the purpose of the nebulizer. Of course, I was too young to appreciate what it was doing, but they were on to something with an asthmatic because they know what it was going to do for the lungs and the air capacity. So let's talk about that. A nebulizer, now that's a smart investment for singers because that aids in your vocal health. Okay. So I want you to think of a nebulizer. I'm just going to drop my note there. I want you to think of a nebulizer is like direct hydration for your vocal cords. It restores moisture from the inside out. listen to me. It also helps with your lungs. So if you're singing and you need your lungs to be able to produce air and sustain the notes and the breath and so forth, then you get the correlation. You need that moisture from the inside out, and you also need it for your vocal cords. Your vocal cords need moisture. So don't underestimate the power of water. And that's why that nebulizer is beneficial because you add water to the nebulizer. All right. Let's see. I do have some nebulizers that some people have invested in and said it works. So I'm going to give you some that are affordable and reliable that I've heard about. And I use a nebulizer myself, but I don't like to endorse anything. I'm not paid for anything here. So I'm not endorsing anybody's products. I'm just telling you what I've heard. So there's the Vicks Personal Steam Inhaler. That's a simple, affordable steam inhaler widely used for vocal hydration and sinus relief. Now, I because I have asthma, I have instances with allergies that sometimes are a pain in the carcass because they do affect my voice. So anything that can help me to avoid sinuses and dehydration of the vocal cords is definitely a win-win for me. Similar budget alternative is the CVS Health Sinus Inhaler. That's $44.99. I'm sorry, I should have said the Vicks Personal Steam Inhaler is $42.98. But you may have to check some of these prices because they could have gone up or down. There could be sales, there could be coupons. So leverage some of those things. The CVS Health Sinus Inhaler is a low cost adjustable steam inhaler with a comfortable mask and easy use. So putting the mask on, you don't have to worry about holding something to your face. Some of the nebulizers, you literally have to hold them to engage. And then there's some that you can put like some type of apparatus over your face and it holds it there for you. So you could be doing something with your hands or hands free, put it to you that way. There's another budget option. You might consider this one. It's $39.99. It's the Hall's Corded Steam Inhaler, one of the cheapest entry level steam inhalers for basic vocal care. Okay. Um, here's a no, this one is not cheap, but some people will spend the money on this. So this one is an upgrade option, but they consider this to be reasonable. I don't anything that goes $100. I'm kind of cocking my head to the side to say, wait, what? Do I want to spend that? Here's the question, do you need to spend that, right? But anyway, I'm going to tell you anyway, and then I'm going to say to you, don't underestimate your flex spending accounts because sometimes your flex spending accounts can pay for some of this stuff. It's considered part of the flex spending option. So I have leveraged that for some of the expensive items where I don't feel like I'm coming out of pocket. I'm coming out of pocket because you contribute to your flex spending account, but I don't feel the pinch all at once. Spending $100 on something or 100 and whatever dollars on something in one shot, you might feel the pinch. But if you do it, on a flex spending where you've been putting maybe $20 a month into, you don't feel the bite as much. Okay, bite anyway. So my Purist 2 personal steam inhaler. This one is $109.88. So this one comes on the scale of like the best option. It comes as one of the best options. It's the higher end option though, delivering ultra pure steam, often used by professional voice users. So when you get to that point where you feel like you're more in the I would say professional range, then you might consider this. But I will say to this, by the time you get to this could be outdated. So you really have to take your time to look into whether it's even worth it. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put that there because we talked about our nebulizers. Let me just see if I have any more notes on any other nebulizers. And I will say that I have seen, oh, okay, wait, I have some ranges for you too. I have seen on I forget what it's called, one of these social media platforms where I've seen some of the nebulizers being offered and people doing reviews on them. So I would say look into some of this stuff and make sure that it adds up where it makes sense for you. Don't just go based on Facebook ads, TikTok ads, Instagram ads, whatever other companies come along. Don't just go based on that. Go on YouTube, and if you see the ad, then go on YouTube and see if anybody's using it. Is anybody doing a review on it? I'm not paid or endorsed by anybody. If they want to, please come my way. I'd be happy to tell you what I think works. Send me some products and so forth. I'll be happy to discuss them here and share them with viewers and let people know what I think is a viable option versus not. But I am not endorsed or paid in any way, shape, or form. So I just want to highlight that here. All right, so I'm going to take this a step further and say that this, the Vicks Personal Steam Inhaler, the price range is coming in low. The same with the CVS Health Sinus one. The portability, they're both coming in medium. The steam quality is coming in good for both, and it's best for beginners on the Vicks Personal Steam Inhaler. The CVS Health one, health sinus inhaler. That one says it is good for everyday use. The Vicks Personal Steam didn't say that. All right. And as far as the other one, I didn't have any information related to that one. See, and that's what I'm talking about. You might want to just research some of that stuff in your spare time to just see if it makes sense. Um, just to make sure that that's working for you. All right. So what you want to do is treat your voice like it's an instrument. Like I said, it's an instrument. So you want to take care of it. So make sure your voice is really considered. We talked about hydration, drinking water consistently, room temperature is best, and avoid excessive caffeine before singing. Why? Caffeine dries out the throat, people. I know. I love my coffee. I drink at least 1 cup of coffee. I've scaled back a little bit to have 2 cups of coffee. Every now and then I do get 2 cups of coffee, but best believe after my coffee, I am drinking water. I am flushing that caffeine out of my system if I can, and I'm lubricating my vocal cords. So think about that. Now, there was a time my husband, bless him, because he would tell me all the time, you need to drink water, you need to drink water. And I would be like, yeah. I'd be drinking all these sugary drinks, and coffee was my go-to. And y'all, I still was banging out singing. But I will tell you, my singing has improved so much since he has purchased this device. And I'll see if I can find it, and it reminds me to drink water. It lights up and it tells me exactly when, how many ounces I've drank, and it really pushes me to drink water and be more consistent. And I have to say, I have been drinking more water with that device than anything else. And you don't have to get that device. They're not endorsing me either, but you can certainly find options where there's water bottles that remind you to drink your water. So please, if you do not like water, you can add a flavor to it, but try not to add flavory, sugary stuff because you already know, you don't want to use a lot of sugar. We're going to talk about that anyway. Treat your voice like an investment, as I mentioned, because the damage can be gradual and unnoticed. So that's why you definitely want to hydrate and make sure you avoid excessive caffeine, especially before singing. Notice a lot of this is before singing so that you don't have to live a life of regiment where you can't enjoy the things that you want. It's knowing when to have those things. So I certainly have my coffee. I'm just careful as to when. Also, you want to rest. Sleep affects the vocal clarity and control. So if you're tired, you're not thinking through it. You may not be supporting the voice the way you should. So just be careful with that. All right. I'm going to put that note there because I finished up there and I want to be clear as to where I'm going next. All right. So we talked about how coffee can dehydrate the voice. Let's talk about energy drinks. Yes, y'all, they can hydrate the vocal cords if not balanced with water. It's what's in the energy drink that you have to concern yourself with. So if there's sugar, sugary foods right before singing can cause energy spikes, then crashes, plus thick saliva. I know this is gross. I'm sorry, but I have to tell you that thick saliva gets in the way. You don't want mucus. That's why you avoid dairy. You can have almond milk. Almond milk is thinner. So, because I'm a coffee drinker, I have switched a lot to almond milk to try to help me alleviate a lot of the dairy. However, I am not drinking any milk product before I sing. The almond milk I haven't tried before I sing, but I will drink almond milk and put that in my coffee. I may test it at the house one day and just play with my voice to see what it sounds like after I've drank some coffee with almond milk, but actually, no, because we're not supposed to have caffeine before we sing. See that? See, I'm thinking, processing through that. So no. Sometimes you want that cup of coffee in the morning before you sing, but let's just not do it, okay? Let's just do what I know that works. Let's not put you through any learning of, or forming bad habits in the beginning of your singing career. All right. Milk, foods that can hurt your vocal performance. Dairy for many singers. I'm just telling you straight up. Just don't do it. Gurgling, milk, cheese, ice cream, gurgling. I say gurgling because what does it do? It increases mucus sensation. Not everyone reacts though, but most people do. So why do I say avoid it? There are some people who have dairy and does nothing to them. In my point of view, I'm telling you what works for me and what I've learned from music school and so forth. It's a no-no. I'm going to tell you personally, I don't do it. I'm not going to recommend that you do it. I'm going to recommend that you get your body used to certain things because the more conditioned that body is, the better you are consistent, the better you know what you're working with each and every time you take the stage or you're about to rehearse or you're about to go into an audition. So just trust me on that. All right, heavy fried foods. Fried chicken, sorry. Love that chicken from Popeyes. No, mm-mm, no. KFC, whatever is your chicken go to, Ray Ray's. My husband loves Ray Ray's anyway. That's a whole other story. No fried chicken. Why? Grease, 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 grease. Y'all know where grease does. Grease settles. Don't grease settle. Y'all already know it settles. So she's settling or he's settling. You don't want that. It makes your breathing also heavier. It feels heavier. So why would you mess with your breathing when you want to be able to release tension? You don't want any tension. So listen to that. Spicy foods, hot sauces, chili. Why? These can cause acid reflux or throat irritation. Best believe I am not doing anything with spice before I'm singing. Also, if you are nervous, where do you think you're going to channel that nervous tension to go? More than likely, in places that it shouldn't. And because you're already messing with hot sauces, chili, y'all know Texas Pete, whatever. Y'all put that stuff on everything. Y'all know you're not supposed, don't do it. Can cause acid reflux or throat irritation. You don't want that. Anything irritating the throat means you're not coming out with the purest sound. Soda, carbonated drinks. Now, y'all, I love me some seltzer water. Sometimes I'm adding that to my water as I'm drinking, but I'm not going to do that before I sing. That can cause dryness and bloating. Okay? You want to get up on stage and look like you, like how many months pregnant? Stop playing. Can cause bloating and dryness sensation. So just be careful with that. All right. Um, just make sure you don't go there. Uh, I did talk about the nebulizer, right? It delivers moisture directly to the vocal folds, which is different from steam. Steam is external, nebulizers are internal. So I did give you some steam for, external, but I also want you to think of nebulizers that are internal humidity support. So I'm going to see if I can locate some nebulizer products and then maybe drop them in the comment section of this feed when I go to upload it later on. So I'll see if I can do that. And if I don't do it once you receive this episode, best believe it is coming because I always go back and watch my episodes to make sure that I have delivered on what I said I would. All right.